Hi there, Nick. We're delighted
Hey.
that you are going to be joining us for our Leaders and Ministers Conference. Now, you and I have been friends and had contact with each other for many years now, but there'll be other people watching this and attending the event next year who don't know much about you. So tell us a bit to start with. Who are you, and a bit about your life context in this moment, as well as your faith journey to this point.
Yeah, my name is Nick Cuthbert. I'm married with one wife and have two children, two boys. One's a lawyer, and the other one is a professor in hydrogeology in Cardiff. And they have two children each. I've got four grandchildren who are growing up now. One's 22. That makes me look and feel rather old. And we've lived in Birmingham for 53 years. That's quite a long time. We came in 1972 at the request of a guy called David McInnes, through whom I'd come to Christ when I was 18. And we started a youth work in the city centre. We had probably 8 years of what I would look back on now as a youth revival. I mean, hundreds and hundreds of kids came to Christ. It was one of those things that you felt, I'm not really involved in this. God's doing something unusual. When that sort of died down, we ourselves and two other couples weren't sure what to do about church, and we met together, and a few people who started becoming Christians joined us, and eventually we had a church on our hands, and that grew to quite a large church and we pastored it for about 21 years with all the joys and the heartaches of that. And then after that, I handed that over to other people, and I joined up with a friend of mine called Chris Stoddard, and we set up a thing called Lead Academy, where we ran learning communities for leaders and pastors, vicars, and their teams. So we get them into group and work for 18 months with them, and I think we've covered about 450, 500 churches. So, and that's been great because I didn't have responsibility for that, but it was a huge privilege to be able to process change in lots of churches and help them along the way.
Fantastic. So on the two angles, then you bring in your own personal experience of managing change, leading change within the church that you grew up, which of course
Yes.
I knew quite well because one of my churches was quite close to where you were. But then also you've got the experience of connecting with a wide range of churches through Lead Academy and all that they do. What would you say are the greatest challenges or risks a church face when confronted with the necessity for change or leading through change? What would you say about
Well,
that?
I mean, the greatest risk is not changing, to be honest, because it is hard, it's difficult, and it's quite painful at times, but it's joyous when you do it right. And but not to change is fatal. And you always go through a pain threshold. You'll probably lose people in major change, but you'll gain more. And every church really is going to, if it's going to grow, it's going to have to experience change. There's no way around it. And I look back on my own life in church life, and probably the things I regret most is how I handled change. I didn't really know how to go through the process. I didn't really understand that people respond to change in a different way. And I was always in a bit of a hurry, so I pushed it through. And we made some mistakes along the way. So I've learned the painful way of it. And I felt I need to think through this a bit. How would I have done this better if I could have processed it myself? So change, hopefully, we're always going to be either small changes, which we need to make a lot of small changes so people get used to change, or some major changes that take place. But I think it's a skill that we have to learn and not assume we just know how to do it, and understand the processes involved in that.
And so, with all that in mind, we've worked on a conference before on this subject, and it was a great pleasure for me personally, and I know the ministers who attended that really benefited from the wisdom and insight that you brought into it, acknowledging there's no clever answers, but there is wisdom that we can bring into these issues. So can you give us a flavour? What
I mean,
can people expect? Why should they come?
the good thing is that we have 2 or 3 days, so we've got time to talk, to think, to question, to examine. So we all come with our own situation, and so people need to come with that and say, no, what process am I going to learn that would help me in my situation, rather than just theory. And we ask the questions, why do we need to change? In what areas do we now know we will need to change and do need to change now? And how do we manage people in the process of change, which is really a fundamental question. And then to know the steps along the way. In other words, for example, if you don't create a sense of dissatisfaction with where you are, you'll never move people. The sense of complacency in any body of people that have been together for a long time is huge. And to get people to move and to understand what it means, you've got to create various dynamics within those people. And to understand the difference between transition and change. Change takes often in a day. Transition can take quite a long time. So we have to process that in people. And the opportunity to be together for 3 or 4 days or 2 or 3 days is that we can think through stuff and talk together and share with one another and maybe get some insights from each other, what people experienced and those haven't experienced along the way. So I think it's a fantastic opportunity to think this through. And all I'll do is share what I have discovered have been principles in my own life and what I've seen in large numbers of other churches, the good and the bad. And none of us are going to get this right. There's no perfect formula, but we can at least say, hey, we know this doesn't work, but this will help you along the way. And how can we engage with you? So if you want to move forward as a church and you want to grow as a church, I think you have to go through some sort of training in change management, so we call it that. Mm-hmm. I don't think you can assume, oh, we can just do that. And that's why I think this particular conference, not because I'm going to be there or you're going to be there, it's just that this is a very, very important thing to be talking about at this moment in time.
Yeah. That's really helpful, Nick. We really look forward to you joining us. It's going to be an interesting, useful, transformational journey that we go on together. And so in the meantime, this is a few months ahead from now, but in the meantime, we pray the Lord will continue to bless you in all aspects of your life and continued ministry.
See you there.
See you there. Yeah. Thanks, Nick.